Alright, mate. Thanks for that. I'll talk to you soon. Alright, bye.
Who's that?
Well, I decided to hire a professional editor.
You hired an editor,
Yeah.
but you can't monetize videos until you've got 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah, I know that. I use the joint business account.
David, we don't have a business account. Who did you hire?
Your brother.
Oh. Okay. Wait, you said you hired him?
Yeah, his rates were cheap.
How much did you ask for?
Pack of quavers and a funny hat.
David, Ben doesn't like quavers.
Oh, he might have said what's-its. Well, it doesn't really matter anyway, does it? I mean, it's not like it's a hard job to do.
One eternity later.
Hello and welcome to Movies with Mercer. For those of you who do not know me yet, my name's David. I'm a bit of a film nerd and I have a very opinionated viewpoint on many movies that I watch. And my channel is here to share those opinions with you. Hopefully you'll come away from this video and you'll think maybe I should check that one out. Just remember, if you haven't subscribed already, to click the button below and also turn your notifications on to find out when I'm going to be posting my next video. Well, in today's video, we're going to be focusing on animated films. Animation, in my opinion, is so much more than just cartoons. Some of them can provide an excellent social commentary on very serious subject matters, and yet what you're actually watching is a buddy cop movie about a rabbit and a fox. Bunny cop movie, I've just got that. There's a couple of disclaimers about this list before I go any further. Number one, in order for me to give more film companies a sporting chance, I decided to make this list specifically one per studio. That way you don't get annoyed at me talking about a certain mouse-led company all the way through this list. That's a list for another day. I'm mates with the mouse. Here's a picture of me with the mouse. Number two, this list was impossibly hard to make. There are so many brilliant animated classics that fell short of the top 10, or that I preferred other films from that same studio, so I had to bump one of them off the list. So, without further ado, here is my list of top 10 animated films, sort of in no particular order. Number 10 is Wreck-It Ralph, which was produced by Walt Disney Animated Studios and was released in 2012. Yeah, this film is the reason you won't be seeing any more Disney animation films on here. The plot: a video game villain, Wreck-It Ralph, wants to be a hero and sets out to fulfill his dreams. But his quest brings havoc to the whole arcade that he lives in. It had to be the best of all the Disney films that I've seen, which is all 57 of them. So why is this film better than those other 57 films? Well, to start off with, it's a genuinely fun concept that hasn't been executed like this before. And actually having a character feel like they've been dealt a bad hand in life and want to make something out of themselves and don't want to be recognised as the bad guy that everyone's making them out to be is far more relatable than you can possibly imagine. It has some great character dynamics like Fix-It Felix and Sergeant Calhoun, and a character like Vanellope, who your first impression of her will be she's just another annoying child character. But as the story progresses, your feelings will do a bit of a U-turn on her and she'll turn out to be one of your favourite characters by the end of the film. The best part for me though has to be the number of video game references, character cameos and visual gags that you'll see. I mean, the very first scene is a support meeting for video game villains, which features such characters as Bowser from Super Mario Bros, Dr. Eggman from Sonic, and Clyde from Pac-Man. It isn't a stereotypical Disney film and I would strongly recommend you just sitting down and watching this with the family. Number 9 is going to be a complete tonal shift though. It's Grave of the Fireflies, which was released in 1988 and created by Studio Ghibli. The plot: a young boy and his little sister struggle to survive during the events of World War II in Japan. Now, some of you may be a little bit disappointed to hear that I'm choosing this film on this list rather than any of the other brilliant films from Studio Ghibli. But I genuinely feel that this film is far superior to every single one of them, and there is one main reason for that. This one feels real. It's based on the 1967 semi-autobiographical novel of the same name created by Akiyuki Nosaka. Originally this film was approached by a bunch of different studios in order to try and create a live action version of this film. And his response was, it was impossible to create the barren, scorched earth that was the backdrop of this story. But when Studio Ghibli did show him the animated storyboards, he completely agreed and said that animation was the only way forward to show this bleak depiction of a young boy in Japan caught in the crossfire between a war that he wasn't part of. So I need to stress, this is certainly not one to watch with your kids, and after you watch it you may never want to watch this film ever again, but it's a film that will sit with you for the rest of your life, as it has done for me, and that's the reason it's my favourite Studio Ghibli film. Number 8 is another film that was released in 1988, and it's Akira. The plot, and I cannot stress enough, I am not making up this plot. A secret military project endangers Neo Tokyo when it turns a biker gang member into a rampaging psychic psychopath who of course can only be stopped by 2 teenagers and a group of psychics. I think it's fair to say that if this film hadn't have been as popular as it was, we wouldn't have seen animes such as these. Ben editing various different animes flying out of my face. And when I did watch it, there was a point at the end of the film where I genuinely suffered from a moment of existential crisis on the sofa at what I was being shown. It's not for the faint of heart, trust me. The graphic imagery and fever dream animation is not something you're going to forget in a hurry. But this film actually still stands the test of time. And if you've never watched this film before, give it a watch and then you'll realise just how many other films that are popular in Hollywood have taken inspiration from this absolutely bonkers project, especially in the science fiction genre. Things like The Matrix wouldn't have been made because of this. Not that that would have been an awful thing, because then you wouldn't have got The Matrix 2 and The Matrix 3. Number 7 is Missing Link, which was created by Laika and released in 2019. The plot's rather simple. It follows a Sasquatch who, with the assistance of an English explorer, travels to the Himalayas to meet his Yeti cousins. Now Laika are a company that are commonly associated with very dark folk tale-like stories. Things like Kubo and the Two Strings and Coraline, which are more about telling a twisted tale that relates to loss or growing up in some sort of way. But Missing Link is a bit like that odd ginger-haired relative to this studio. Nobody really knows where it came from. It fits right in perfectly, but at the same time sticks out like a sore thumb. But this one, it's just really fun. It's the type of film that you'll sit all the way through it and just smile. And the voice acting from Zach Galifianakis and Hugh Jackman really makes these characters come alive, and it's just great. I would strongly recommend watching this one with the family, especially with young kids around, purely because it'll be fun for you and it'll be fun for them. You'll all be laughing at different times. Number 6, speaking of unlikely friendships with giant creatures, is The Iron Giant, which was released in 1999 and created by Warner Brothers. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, don't worry, I forgot about it too before I started writing this list. But it's on here for a reason. The plot is very straightforward. It's about a young boy who befriends an innocent alien who looks like a giant robot. Hence the reason it's called The Iron Giant. Now the main reason I love this film is actually because I forgot about it. That sounds weird, but hear me out. Picture the scene. It's the time between Christmas and New Year. Everybody is running about the house. You've had a really long Christmas and you just want to stick something on. And nobody can agree on what to watch. The kids want one thing, the adults want one thing. It becomes chaos and carnage. You're scrolling through every single streaming service available. Disney+, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, something else. Then out the corner of your eye, you just spot the Iron Giant. And every single time this happens for me, I remind myself just how much I love that film. And I think everyone sort of does, because it's one of those ones that it'll always sit at the back of your mind. It's never anybody's favourite film. It's one that everybody loves. Yes, it's set in a specific time period, and yes, it's the 2D animation, but it does feel timeless in its essence. There isn't much more for me to say. I know I'm not being as enthusiastic as I have been about the other ones, but this one is just nice. And that's why it's on here. Number 5 is Kung Fu Panda 2. It was released in 2011 and was created by DreamWorks. The simple plot is Po the panda and his friends have to save China from a new weapon created by a sadistic evil peacock. I'm sorry. This is DreamWorks. I had all of DreamWorks to pick from. These are the same company that did Shrek, How to Train Your Dragon, Prince of Egypt. I'm assuming that if you have not watched this one, or you are judging me for picking this one, it's because you didn't enjoy the first one like I did, and you never bothered watching the second one. And to be honest with you, I was sort of in that boat as well. I didn't really watch this film when it came out. What Kung Fu Panda 2 does is it takes one of the most irritating characters ever to be created, namely Jack Black as a panda, and turns it into something truly beautiful. The one thing that I really want to stress to you though is this film is as good as its villain, and its villain is truly terrifying, and it's Gary Oldman as a peacock. It also has one of the most heart-wrenching scenes of any film on this list. The characters who didn't get as much screen time in the first film actually get really fleshed out in this one. I think it's unfair to compare this film to its predecessor in any sort of way. Number 4 is Rango, which was released in 2011 and produced by Paramount Pictures. The plot: Rango is an ordinary chameleon who winds up accidentally in the town of Dirt, a lawless outpost in the Wild West that is in desperate need of a new sheriff. It is a bit of a curveball, this one, and I'm sure that a good portion of you won't have watched this film. And I'm not a massive fan of westerns, because for some reason I have so much difficulty watching classic westerns and not comparing them to a talking chameleon. But here are the reasons that this film is on the list. If you take it at face value, then yes, this is just an animated feature about talking lizards. But the closer that you look, the more you will actually get out of this film. And although the subject matter can get very dark, it is extremely funny, and there are moments where you look at the scenery and it looks like it's been ripped straight from a Clint Eastwood flick of old. In summary, Rango is a superbly written, masterfully shot film that made me believe that, yeah, ugly critters can possess the heroic qualities that we're so desperately needing in the world today. Number 3 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was released in 2018 and produced by Sony Animation Pictures. In my opinion, this is the best and most accurate superhero movie ever made. That's my hot take. The plot: teenager Miles Morales becomes the Spider-Man of his universe and must join forces with other spider-powered individuals in order to save their universes from a cataclysmic destruction. Let's just start with the obvious positive first. The soundtrack. Now, I wouldn't normally listen to this style of music, but it is without question one of the greatest movie soundtracks ever to have been created. What commonly happens in films with popular and modern music is that eventually that music becomes a little bit dated. This film doesn't fall victim to that problem, because all the way through it you are sitting there and listening to what you as an audience will believe is Miles Morales' personal playlist. And then you have to factor in that this is the first comic book movie that actually looks like a comic book movie, complete with panels and bangs and flipbook style animation that genuinely makes you feel like you yourself are in the comic book at the same time. And one scene to look out for in particular is the scene with the song What's Up Danger. Also, if you are a Marvel fan, this film, you have to admit, has the best Stan Lee cameo of the lot. And considering it was one of his last acting roles, it feels like a really sweet send-off. And it's a fantastic concept that's executed so perfectly. And it isn't just your stereotypical superhero Hollywood flick. It is way more than that, and you should definitely give this one a watch. Number 2 is Finding Nemo, which was released in 2003 by Pixar Animation. For those of you that know me personally, you'll understand exactly why I put this on my list. This is my favourite film of all time. But let's face it, you all know the plot. An overprotective father has to rescue their kidnapped child from a foreign land. Wait, that sounds familiar.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want.
There is so much to love about this film, so let me just quickly run through it all. The music in this film is sublime. Thomas Newman, the man who seems destined to never win an Oscar, created a beautiful soundscape. that really immerses you in the scenery and makes you feel like you're swimming along with all the characters. And this music, partnered with the ocean scenery around, is an absolute match made in heaven. Just a quick fact for you here, Pixar developed a really realistic look of the surface water, but had to make it look more fake so that people wouldn't think they were actual pictures of the ocean surface. Let's just rewind that. They had to make this fictional movie look more unrealistic so that people wouldn't think it was real. There are talking fish in it. And the side characters are so unforgettable. The swordfish that are constantly fencing, the crabs that constantly want to start a fight, of course Bruce and the reformed shark gang, and of course that one set of creatures that my dad will always quote no matter what when we go to the sea. Maybe I'm a little biased with this one, but it played such a huge role in my childhood that I couldn't exactly leave it off the list. This film is like visiting your parents for the weekend, and they cook you your favourite meal, and you curl up in front of the fire with a nice glass of warm milk, and you just feel calm and safe with the world. And finally, coming in at number 1 is... Wait, I'm wearing the wrong hat. Just give me 2 seconds. It's Dragon Ball Super Broly that was released in 2018 and produced by Toei Animation. This film is a brawl in your local pub with 2 shots of tequila and then a dodgy kebab on the way home. The other films on this list are superb, but there was only ever going to be one film that made it to the top of my animated film lists. The film follows the series protagonists, Vegeta and Goku, as they encounter the dangerous Saiyan known as Broly. Now, I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z every morning before school, and I must admit, it's a very strange show and I can understand why a lot of people just don't watch it. It's alien races firing laser beams at each other and fighting to the death. It's basically just the DC universe at this point. But bear with me, this film is not on this list purely because I got a bit nostalgic watching it. This film starts with a really touching prologue that establishes everything that's already happened in the TV show, so therefore you do not have to have all this prior knowledge in order to watch it. It then chooses to, rather than focus on the protagonists of the series, focus on the antagonists of the film. And by doing so, you actually really connect with 2 characters in particular. The first of which is a strange looking alien creature named Frieza, who dreams of ruling the galaxy with an iron fist. And the title character, Broly, who when he's calm is a really docile and friendly guy. And then the conflict and the main focal point of this film begins. Now, I've pretty much complimented every single film on this list for one of the 3 following areas. Either a great soundtrack, great voice acting, or great animation. When I say that this film incorporates all 3 of those factors perfectly, there is no hyperbole with that statement. To say that I was on the edge of my seat all the way through this film when I watched it in the cinema for the first time is putting it lightly. And my biggest worry when I did pay for the DVD copy is that it would not hold up on a small screen in comparison to a big screen. And I can honestly say wholeheartedly that I was completely wrong, and this film still holds up on the small screen. It is a visual delight, and it actually uses 3 different animation styles all the way through the film. And normally you'd feel like that was a very disjointed way of doing things, but in the context of the movie itself, it is absolutely perfect. But the most positive thing that I can say about this film is you do not have to be a major fan of the TV series in order to enjoy this film. I mean, isn't that right, Editor Ben? Editor Ben agrees. I could honestly talk about this film for hours, but I won't subject you to that today. Just know that of all the films that I've recommended on this list today, this is the best one of them all. And that's my list, but what did you think? Are there any films that you think I've forgotten? Make sure to let me know what your favourite animated films are in the comment section below, and also let me know what you think I should do next for my film list. Also, make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so that you can be updated about any of these film lists in the future. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a very happy and safe new year. My leg? Oh no, my leg. It's falling asleep.